Hi, my name is Emma Barbarian, and I'll be doing my case study on Colombia. The overview of what I'm going to talk about in this presentation is an introduction and background of Colombia, economy and politics, intervention in Colombia and its effects, gender roles, reflection of Colombia and Latin America, a conclusion, and its works cited. Colombia is a beautiful country with diverse landscape located in the northern region of Latin America. It borders Ecuador, Brazil, Peru, and Venezuela. Colombia's official language is Spanish. However, many Colombians learn English in school as well. There are also people who speak Amerindian, which is the language of the indigenous peoples. This language comprises of 65 dialects. Different types of Creole are also found to be spoken in Colombia. Colombia's name originates from Christopher Columbus, an explorer that never even set foot onto Colombian lands. In fact, his partner, Alonso de Ojeda, was, in actuality, the founder of Colombia. In 1525, the colonization of Colombia began. Colombia's first main attraction was that one of its cities at the time was entirely made of gold. After that, explorers and various types of people congregated to Colombia to see if the myth was indeed true. While the myth was not true and began being debunked, people began to see Colombia's gorgeous terrain, incredibly fertile land, and majestic beaches. All these factors drew more and more settlers to Colombia. Santa Marta was the first official settlement in Colombia, initiated by Rodrigo de Bastidas in 1525. Colombia was a viceroyalty and was controlled by Spain. It finally gained independence from them in 1810. Religion was also a significant part of Colombian history. Roman Catholicism was a major player in developing and controlling the indigenous population that resided in Colombia for many years. My first topic of discussion will entail Colombia's economy and politics. Tourism is one of the most important economic activities that take place in Colombia currently. The priorities are shifting in Colombia, and the preconceived notion is that drugs still have a tight hold in Colombia's economy. According to the New York Times, Colombia is positioned in the tourist market as one of the most sought-after destinations for 2010. In fact, between 2002 and 2009, the number of foreign visits arriving in Colombia jumped from 1.1 million to 2.5 million. Colombia's economic priorities are indeed shifting. Colombia's long history of creativity in literature, art, and music is growing into new opportunities for business and tourism. I want to emphasize the fact that Colombia is flourishing in its economic status and can even be compared to some nation-states in Europe. Bogotá, the capital of Colombia, is sometimes even referred to as the Athens of South America. This comparison is extremely honorable, with Athens being a source of high intellect. According to the World Bank, Colombia's GDP has grown from 4 billion in 1960 to 314 billion in 2017. The poverty headcount has also drastically gone down from 42% in 2008 to 27% in 2018. This empirical evidence goes to show how Colombia's economy has improved over the years. It is true that what started this sharp growth in GDP was the act of importing cocaine to more than several countries. However, since the discovery of this immense problem, Colombia has worked on trying to eliminate this issue. In the 80s and 90s, it was considered dangerous to go to certain areas in Colombia because of the coca issue, but since then cities like Medellin and Cali are places that tourists flock to. Politically, Colombia has gone through a roller coaster. FARC, or the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, were primarily a group of people who believed in the idea of communism, but carried out their duties in such a way that can be considered a totalitarian regime. The FARC were founded at a time of brutal repression against any form of action considered subversive. They flourished in a time of political and religious turmoil. They did not believe in God, so they viewed religion as a competition against their outlooks. Even though there was freedom of religion in Colombia, Roman Catholicism reigned. FARC did not want anything to stand in their way or undermine their power. Colombia is ethnically diverse, but religiously homogeneous. So, to overcome the overwhelming amount of influence the Catholic Church held, the FARC killed, kidnapped, and extorted religious leaders and practitioners, inhibiting free religious expression. Terrorist organizations generally targeted religious leaders and practitioners for political rather than religious reasons. FARC, however, was not the only group who found religion to be a threat. The National Liberation Army continued threatening members of religious organizations. In 2016, however, FARC surrendered and began the process of disarmament. Now, FARC will plead their struggles through their voices instead of weapons. The FARC will unite together as an entity through a political party. FARC was very prominent in the drug war, aiding and abetting with dangerous drug cartels. Now that FARC has chosen to voice their opinions peacefully, drug cartels and gangs have less support in their underground world of dirty money. Government officials are looking to do something similar to the National Liberation Army as well. Intervention from other countries, especially the United States, is an important aspect to mention when looking at Colombia's overall progress and hindrances. The U.S. sometimes meddles too far in Colombia's affairs, causing some serious negative outcomes. Since 2000, the United States has provided about $9.4 billion in aid to Colombia, of which about $6.8 billion has been in the form of military and police assistance. The way the U.S. has wormed its way into Colombia and many other Latin American countries have hurt more than they have helped the respective country. For example, cocaine production does not appear to have gone down. In 2015, Colombian security forces seized a record 252 tons of the drug. One of the main issues in Colombia have been drug wars, but the U.S. intervening has certainly not helped, but aggravated the sensitive situation. In addition, Colombia has become the murder capital for unionists. The greatest recipient of U.S. military aid in that region by far, Colombia, is also that region's greatest human rights abuser. In conclusion, the U.S. already have enough problems on their own. They should not be intervening into other countries' issues because they only make them grow. Gender roles is the next topic of discussion. Gender roles in Colombia are an ongoing issue that persists. Social injustice reigns after many years of protesting and trying to bring to light the unacceptable chauvinistic attitudes men hold. In one report, a Colombian man named Andrés Jaramillo claimed that if women were wearing certain articles of clothing, they were essentially asking to be raped. This mentality needs to be exterminated from the world. Jaramillo apologized for his repulsive comments, but nothing was ever done to punish his verbal abuse. Unfortunately, Colombian society adopted a culture in which men occupy a dominant role within the community. The statistics of what women go through in Colombia is appalling. 37% of married women have been physically abused by their husbands. 10% of those women report having been raped. 6% of the women surveyed have been raped by someone other than their husband. The worst thing about this fact is that the perpetrators are still walking the streets freely. Even though gender inequality has decreased from even as early as 10 years ago, women in Colombia still face some significant obstacles in chauvinistic attitudes, sex education, abortion rights, contraceptives adoption, political representation, and family stability. Gender equality is just as important as politics and should be a priority. Women still have a long path to take in order to be treated as fair as men. Now we move on to how Colombia acts in comparison to the rest of Latin America. Colombia has, to this day, never experienced a dictatorship. Its levels of inflation are low and their GDP has shown to be steadily increasing. Overall, its progress regarding social, political, economic, and cultural aspects is outstanding. They deserve more credit to their country and their leaders. In conclusion, Colombia has made huge strides in its progress with its economy and politics. U.S. intervention should be more monitored in order for Colombia to use their help to their advantage and not the other way around. Gender inequality still has a great presence in Colombia, even though there have been steps that have been taken to lower it. Colombia's GDP and overall statistics show that it is a highly progressive country that will keep improving as time passes.